Hey there, YouTube. Ooh, today is Thursday, February 26th. I usually don't come out on Thursdays, but I'm pretty sure I did last week. And I'm pretty sure I said the same thing in the video that I did last week on Thursday. So I want to think I'm getting a little bit better about getting out of my apartment lately. I am on my period right now. I just did another 4 10-hour shifts back to back at the club earlier this week from Sunday to Wednesday. So yeah, whenever I do that, especially usually on Thursdays, I want to just take the day off. But the sun is out today, and I feel like I had a somewhat eventful shift at the club last night, and I really just didn't want to have to wait until Sunday to try to talk about it on here. That being said, I am feeling very tired and stressed out right now as usual. That's pretty much all the time though, but you know, slightly different degrees, levels of that. But so I'm gonna, you know, I'm still gonna be trying my best today with this stream, but so the past couple of videos I've done, I only had one paper for notes, and not just one sheet of paper, but like, yes, one sheet of paper, but also just one side of that piece of paper. Whereas today I have 3 pieces of paper. And so they're very like scrambled all around. They're very disorganized as usual, like as all my notes pretty much are most of the time, more often than not. But so 2 of these pages only have stuff on one side, but the first one of them it's both sides. So I guess with the one with both sides and then the 2 other ones with one side, I would consider that 4 like sides of the pages to do. Whatever. I haven't really looked those over yet right now. As usual, I'm a little anxious going into this stream. Very anxious, just apprehensive. No idea which way this one could possibly go. So many different stressful and confusing directions that my streams have been going lately. So this stream that I'm doing right now, most of my streams I usually do from the strip club parking lot, you know, from the club that I work at. Right now, I probably won't be working at the club today, but I still wanted to try to come out and do some stuff, so, and mainly just try to do a video on here. It's almost 2:30. I'm parked behind the gym. I haven't been to the gym since well before Thanksgiving. So basically I haven't been to the gym at all yet this winter. I want to tell myself that I'm gonna try to go there today after this video. I would have liked to have tried to maybe squeeze it in before doing my stream, just so I could get it out of the way and then be able to come on here and just be like, yay, yes, I did it. I finally went to the gym. But just with all the issues that I've been having with my streams lately, I get really anxious that they're not gonna post properly. So in case this one doesn't post properly, I figured I'd just try to do this now beforehand, before I did anything else. Just so that I'll try to have more time to go back and check on it, and then if it doesn't post properly, you know, maybe I can try to redo it and then be in an even better mood with that. But my video yesterday looks like it posted okay. So that's nice. I was happy about that. But Yeah, that seems to be it feels like it's kind of a rarity these days pretty much, like, I and I was saying towards the end of that video yesterday, I was like, was talking about how I was feeling like lately I've been leaning more towards maybe streaming less often, um, but that is really difficult for me because I kind of just want to stream every day, but on the yeah, I just with all the issues that I've been having with it, I'm already stressed out besides, but the issues that I have with my streams so often, it stresses me out more, of course. So on my way over here, I tried to have the settings, like the live open, not the, I didn't purposely mean to start streaming while I was driving, um, that time, but it was only a minute. I guess because I had like the starting page open, like trying to get ready to start this stream, while I was driving and just having the page open or like ready to be opened, somehow the stream, I guess, started on its own while I was driving. And yeah, thankfully that was only a minute. So I just left it up for now. I kind of thought it was funny. At least it had, well, I was gonna say at least it had audio, but it probably would have been better if that one didn't anyway. But I don't know. I mean, I was just kind of like, I get especially stressed out when I'm driving, so I was just like, oh my god, like while I was driving, because I just get so stressed out with that. Yeah, especially. But honestly, compared to how I was for a lot of the rest of that driving time before the stream actually had started on its own or whatever happened, if I maybe accidentally hit the button, I was like really just like freaking out, like, oh my, like not just like little oh my gods, but like screaming them and just like a lot of times when I drive, I'm really like saying like a lot of like loud, angry stuff, like really screaming and like really being dramatic. I do have road rage, I'll be honest. Yes, I have road rage. I just hate to drive. I hate traffic. I hate being on the road. I'm a bad driver. It's stressful. It's etc. 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 You know, so I think I probably just accidentally hit the button to start that stream, but for all I know with how things have been going lately these days, for me especially, it could have just done it on its own for all I know. I don't know. Regardless, I'm parked now, kind of. I'm parked like near a dumpster behind the building. Honestly, I feel like at this point I'd be better off just crawling into that dumpster where I belong. It's nice to have the sun out today, but it does really affect my driving. Like, it's just so difficult for me to see, and I can't really keep my phone on the dash because I'm afraid for it to like get too much sun and overheat. And it's really difficult for me to try to find a parking spot because, yeah, I'm always afraid to park in the sun because I feel like it's too bright on the screen and then it will sometimes overheat the phone. Just coming in onto the dashboard and stuff. But so anyways, enough of all that. Real quickly though, I just want to say I'm also stressed out because my electric meter last night, up until the past 2 days and nights, the reading had been staying the same while I was at work. I try to think of everything I can have in my apartment to be shut off while I'm at work, like everything unplugged, everything off. So I check the electric meter outside of the building when I leave for work and then later when I get back. So my shifts are usually about 10 hours lately. So with me having made a point to shut everything off pretty recently while I'm gone, the reading was staying the same in the time that I was at work from when I left the place to when I got back. And the past couple days and nights, it's gone up an entire kilowatt hour in the time since I've been gone. So either somebody's going in there and doing that, or somebody's hacking into the meter, or something must be going on because, like I said, as far as I'm aware of, I've shut and unplugged everything. I've shut everything off, unplugged everything there. while I'm gone. I hardly even use the electricity when I am there. Oh, but another thing on that note, just to get this part out of the way, I was saying recently how my microwave, the only real way that I kind of try to get a warm almost meal, or like, you know, just warmer food. Most of the stuff that I eat is just like non-perishable packaged goods these days, which is super healthy, I know, but you know, like if I want to have like soup or oatmeal or coffee, I'll use the microwave rather than using the stove lately, to try to like use less electricity that way as best I can. But I was saying recently how my microwave seemed like it was not working very well lately. And I was like, somebody hacked into my microwave. But what I tried yesterday or last night, technically earlier today, because it was after my shift at the club. So it was when I got back from the club after midnight. Sort of last night, but really it was earlier this morning. Anyway, what I did is I just kind of thought maybe the door was a little bit loose on the front. So I was like, what if I just try like really pushing the door forward, like to make sure it's closed tightly, because it is an old microwave also. It just seemed like the door in the front was a little loose. So I was like, let's just try like really pushing it and holding it shut while I try to press the buttons to get it started. And that actually seemed to work. So thank gosh. So rather than somebody hacking into it to mess with it, maybe it was just that. But yeah, just the way things have been going lately, like with a lot of things, and just for a while now really, but especially lately, I can't help but just get so stressed out and concerned and freaked out about everything. And a lot of that is my YouTube, unfortunately. I just don't understand. I don't want to get into that right now because it stresses me out. There's just, oh, there's a plane. I'm parked by the airport. I'm going to shut up so you guys can hear the plane. It's a Southwest airline. If planes were hot pink, I feel like they'd be easier to find if or when they went down, like for plane crashes. If a white plane crashes in the snow, it's going to be difficult for people to find the wreckage or the crash site. If a blue plane, like the Southwest Airlines, are blue and red, but mostly blue, if that goes down in, say, the ocean, you know, I just feel like hot pink planes would be the easiest thing to see against most other like backgrounds, or wherever that, if a hot pink plane were to land pretty much anywhere, you'd probably be able to see it better than most other colors of planes. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna try to get into my notes from my shift last night as best I can. These are all over the place as usual, and I'm so tired right now. But so yesterday was the second day of my period, but it was almost like the first full day, because I had technically started it the day before, or the night before. So yesterday was Wednesday, but so I had first started my period for this round of it towards the end of the, not towards the end of the night, but into the nighttime of Tuesday. So you could say that Tuesday was the first day, but because it was like into the later part of that day, or like the nighttime basically for that when it started, I would kind of have considered yesterday to be my first full day, or whichever way you want to look at it. It was still towards the very start of like the worst times for it to be, like when I really should be trying to take it the easiest and, you know, just be the most careful probably, feeling at my pretty much worst with that kind of thing. So originally going into my shift yesterday, I had, despite starting my period the day/night before on Tuesday, On Tuesday's shift, I was doing pretty good on stage and on the pole and still able to get a pretty good workout. But with the way that I was feeling yesterday, the following, shift, I originally went into that shift at the club yesterday feeling like I wasn't going to be doing much of anything that shift. The dressing room where my locker is, not once again, but yet again. It's not once again. I'm sure it'll happen many more times. So yet again. Which, by the way, this is something that I have written down somewhere that I know that I wanted to mention. There are, as far as I'm aware, there are 3 locker rooms at the club that I work at right now. But where mine is, or where my lockers are, the one that I'm in and have been in like ever since I started there years and years ago, that is okay. Well, that one's actually split into 2 sections. So you could say that there's 4 if you count that area upstairs as being 2 different sections, because there's a door. So, and I would actually consider, I guess, that to be 2 separate sections, because I'm in the first section, and that is the only area where there's no electrical outlets to plug in a space heater. Whereas the second part of that dressing room upstairs, there's a door, and once you go through that door, it's this little area. It's a much smaller space, and there's plenty of electrical outlets there to plug in space heaters. So it's a smaller room again, so it's easier to heat up because it's so small. And there's a countertop, there's like blow dryers. A lot of dancers will use the blow dryers on like flat irons and curling irons there to do their hair, which obviously generates heat in that way. But there's also space heaters in that little area. Whereas the bigger space, the big open space that I'm in, where my locker is, for some reason, there's no electrical outlets out there. And I have looked, there's none. It's really weird. So that's the only area where their lockers are where there's no electrical outlets for space heaters. And there's also a door in that area. The door isn't open or anything, but I think the wind kind of blows into that direction, which is a common theme for me, it seems, because it's the same way back at my apartment where the windows are. But anyway, yeah, and the door is not very well insulated. So even though the door is technically shut, it definitely gets a draft. But honestly, it gets so cold in that particular dressing room area that I've questioned before. Sometimes I really wonder if maybe the managers are just putting the air conditioner on. I don't know why they would do a thing like that in wintertime. I do know that in the summer, they'll put the AC on in there, like, too much, to where it's too cold. I mean, it's pretty much always too cold. That's a little passenger plane up there, it looks like, that time. Yeah, that dressing room gets really cold. And then the other 2 dressing rooms downstairs, they're much smaller areas, and they also both have electrical outlets for space heaters. And they do also have like multiple space heaters in those other dressing rooms. So I don't know, it just so happens that, I've been in the one that's the cold spot. So when I first got to the club yesterday, and it was like this the previous day, it's been like this a lot lately too up there. It's like that up there a lot. So when I got there yesterday, I was wearing the 2 corsets. You can't really tell as much today because the one underneath is black, but I'm wearing the red piece on top still. So this is the second corset. And then yesterday, so I was wearing 2 corsets yesterday, and like a white one underneath and then the red one on top. I was wearing my club dress. I was wearing lately, yesterday and today, I've been doubling up on my zip-up hoodie things. So before I would wear just the red or just the over piece, the black one, like one at a time. Yesterday I was wearing not these exact same two, but I was still wearing two of the hoodie things. I was wearing 4 pairs of socks and like this big heavy skirt. Almost down to my knees and just this really thick fabric. It's not really something that I wear around the club that often unless it's particularly cold in there, which it was last night. So I was also originally wearing pants when I got there, but obviously I took the pants off and just left, but I left everything else on. So I was still wearing a lot of fabric for all of that shift. I was actually still wearing all of this on my head. I was wearing the 3 hats and the earmuffs, and I wore this same exact getup on my head the entire shift. I wore the 2 hoodies on myself the entire shift. Normally I would take some of this off at some points. I basically left, I didn't even take my corsets off. I left both of my 2 corsets on the entire shift. So it was that cold. Normally I would take most of this off at a lot of different points throughout the shift. As far as I can recall, the only piece of clothing that I took off was just the pants. I left the 4 pairs of socks on, the 2 corsets on, the 2 hoodies on, the 3 hats on, and the earmuffs. I was wearing all of that for the entire shift. So with that, I was like, I'm not going to be climbing the pole today. Between that and my period, you know, I was like, there's no way. I was like, I'm not going to be climbing the pole. I'm not going to be doing anything, pushing myself too much today or doing anything like that. But let me just take a peek here. So that was what I was originally thinking, but well, I had gone upside down on the pole with my 2 corsets on. Actually, no, I think it was just 1 corset the day before. But up until that time, I think Tuesday probably it was. Up until Tuesday, I hadn't gone upside down on the pole in my corsets for a while. So I did that on Tuesday. I think that was actually my first time on stage that day. And that time I'm pretty sure I was just wearing the 1 corset. But yeah, yesterday I was wearing 2 of them. And I just didn't want to take them off because it was too cold, you know. So I think I just really had to warm my body up still, despite all this clothing that I was still wearing. It was just that cold. So I guess at some point I just went on the pole and I went upside down in my corsets. Because I think the mentality that I had, I did that 3 times throughout my shift last night. So for me to do that 3 times on Tuesday, when I went upside down on the pole in my corsets on Tuesday, I did it 1 time, I'm pretty sure, and just wearing 1 corset. Whereas last night, I did it 3 times wearing the 2 corsets. So the first time I did it, I think I was thinking to myself, okay, I was wearing the red corset piece. Where is it? I was wearing the red corset piece on top, and I was wearing the red earmuffs, and I was like, okay, like the red matches my period. So I just want to be able to say to myself and maybe on my YouTube later that I still want to upside down on the pole in my corsets, like on my period and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I did that. The first time was earlier on in the night. I think probably around, I think it was around 9 o'clock the first time I did it. So at that point, we were going into night shift, and it might have been a little bit earlier than that, but I know that night shift was starting at that time because one of the female managers that works at the club had just gone into the DJ booth, and I remember last week when I did a Wednesday shift last week, she had put the smoke stuff on that I'm very allergic to. So up until recently, the smoke wasn't being used on the slower shifts that I've been doing for a while, but last week it was being used a lot on those shifts. And last week I was asking them to pause it while I was on stage because I am pretty allergic to it and it just freaks me out. I have a lot of like kind of like PTSD trauma response to that because there was a really bad situation going on with that for me. Especially years and years ago, there were 2 DJs that were really abusing that situation for a long time, like for years and years and years. Nowadays, they don't work. Those 2 DJs in particular don't work at the club anymore. They haven't for a while. So it's not as much of an issue now, but it's still an issue for me because I still have that history, you know, with it. I still have the kind of stressed out trauma response. So back in the day, when this first became an issue many, many years ago with those 2 DJs, I would get almost like panic attacks. I would get really stressed out from the smoke being on there, mostly because I was allergic, or I am allergic to it, and also because I almost died in a smoky room back when I was a teenager in high school. So, you know, there's always been those 2 big reasons as far as why it's like it bothers me so much. But nowadays, it's like I still have those reasons, but I also have this additional kind of like trauma, PTSD stress response built in from all of those years of having that abusive, stressful situation with those 2 DJs that were there at the club years ago. So yeah, that situation was going on for years and years, where back then I was, you know, at least making a little something, but I was giving it all to them, like, you know, and they were still like really rude to me and just abusing that smoke situation a lot. Like it was, you know, pretty bad for me. So now it's like when I see that smoke stuff on, I still have, you know, that time that I almost died back in high school. I still have like the allergic, knowing that it's going to make me sick. So I still have like the stress from that. But I also have the stress added on from all those years with those 2 DJs. So it's that the whole situation with those 2 DJs really compounded the issues that I already had with it. So yeah, it's definitely something that still bothers me and affects me a lot. I have like a trauma response to it that I really, really try as hard as I can to suppress and ignore and override. Just deal with as best as I possibly can, but it is still extremely difficult for me. And another thing that I actually just remembered pretty recently, I only remembered this, I think, because I saw a picture of it. I was going through old pictures recently, trying to delete some of the old ones to try to make a little more storage space on my phone, because that's been an issue on my phone as well for a while. But I found this picture where the old version of the smoke machine that they used to have at the club, it was much different than the one that they have now. The one that they have now is actually in the DJ booth. And so it's off of the stage and it's running continuously once they put it on. The old one they used to have, it was a button that the DJs pushed. And so they were controlling every time it came on and went off. But not only that, the button was in the DJ booth with the DJs, but the actual smoke machine itself, that version, the main compartment of it where the actual smoke stuff was positioned directly above the stage. So the liquid that was in that contraption above the stage would actually drip fluid down onto the stage floor. And I don't know how I could have possibly forgotten that. I know that I've talked about that smoke machine issue many, many, many times before in many of my videos, just and on my channel in general. It's been mentioned a lot, probably too much. I know, I apologize, but it's a big issue for me and it has been for a very long time. But yeah, so with all those times that I've mentioned it before, I am very surprised that I know that this part I haven't mentioned before. I haven't mentioned the part about it dripping on the stage. Because like I said, up until just recently, I had completely forgotten about that detail. But yeah, so that was even worse back then, you know, because there would be like this thick, slippery, liquid, fluidy stuff just dripping onto the stage floor. So, you know, I didn't want to slip on it, obviously, or get it on my skin. You're not supposed to get that stuff on your skin. It says right on the bottle, like, don't get this on your skin. Other dancers would just not even seem to notice and just be rolling all around in it, like, carefree as can be, you know. A lot of them would have licked it right off the floor, like, for an extra $1. I don't know. Most people just don't seem bothered by stuff, which is great. I think that's awesome. Like, it really bugs me as well that I do get bothered by stuff like this. But, you know, again, I didn't want to slip in that stuff. I mean, it says not to get it on your skin. I don't want to get it on my skin. Part of the symptoms that I've had with the allergy to this stuff is I have gotten rashes from it in the past, you know, because the ingredients in the fluid and in the product will interact, I'm pretty sure, with the metal, with the types of metal that the pole is made out of. Because I'm pretty sure this smoke stuff, it's like little particles of metal, possibly, or I've done more research into this in the past about it, but I think there's some kind of weird combination when that stuff interacts with other types of metals. It's hard to explain off the top of my head right now because it's been a while since I've really looked into it, like trying to do research online about it like that, but I mean, because my skin is, when I'm on the pole doing pole tricks like I am so often, my skin is obviously pressing and rubbing into the pole a lot. So when that pole is being coated in this weird stuff, you know, I was getting a rash from that, and I was definitely having a reaction. My rash used to be a lot worse, up until very recently. Like, if you look even in some of my older videos on my channel, even just this past summer, I still had a little bit of the rash. Like, you could see in older videos, some of it was like coming towards the front. It was mostly on my back, but I would get weird little patches that you could see sometimes even like coming up near my neck area. I'm pretty sure, I don't want to jinx this, but I'm pretty sure right now and for a little while, I don't know if it's a winter thing. I think with that rash, it was very heat sensitive and triggered by heat as well. I know that I had that rash for a long time, just on my back mostly, but I don't think I have it anymore right now. I'll have to remember to check on it. Like, I've just been wearing so many layers now with the winter, and when I'm back at my apartment, even at the club, it's been so cold a lot of times that I'm still wearing like a zip up hoodie over stuff. Like, at my apartment, I'm just so quick to try to get my clothes on as quickly as I can after I shower. So I'm not really like pausing, like taking the time to pause and like look in the mirror at my back. But from what I can recall off the top of my head, I feel like the last couple times I did kind of casually check. I don't think I really have that rash anymore. I could be wrong, but I know that usually before it would catch my eye a lot in the mirror. Like, when I would kind of glance back there, I'd be like, oh God, like, it's still there, it's still there. It might not still be there anymore, but if that is the case, it would be a very recent thing because I'd had it for a while before. But anyways, so yeah, the first time that I went upside down on the pole in my 2 corsets last night, I was wearing the 2 corsets that time rather than just the one, but I was still wearing the very long skirt. So the very long skirt that I was wearing, it's like this very heavy, heavy fabric. It's thick, it's heavy. You know, I was wearing it to try to have some warmth from it, to not be as cold, you know. So, but with the length of it and the thick fabric, it very easily could block the parts of my legs and my knees that I need to try to have skin contact, you know, with the pole to try to grip the pole and climb the pole. And here comes another plane. I don't know which one that one is. That one's white, I think, with like a red tip on the tail. I'm guessing American Airlines. I'm not too sure. So I remember I used to go upside down years and years ago when I wore that skirt. But I have to be really especially careful because I have to just like hyper focus on my legs and my knees and where my legs are gripping the pole, because in a split second, it's so easy for that skirt to just get in the way. And if my legs were to come into contact with the skirt before the pole, like they very easily could, that's just straight slippage. You know what I mean? So I hadn't gone upside down on the pole in that skirt in years and years and years, up until last night. And I was very proud of the fact that after not having done that in that skirt for so long, not only was I wearing the skirt, but I was wearing the 2 corsets as well, which I hadn't done in a while. Not nearly as long. I mean, I had done the 2 corsets already this winter, but I know that it had been a little while, you know what I mean? Like probably a month or 2. It's been a while. Longer than I would have liked, you know? And up until recently, I was like, I just didn't think that I was still able to do it. So, but yeah, with the skirt, I hadn't done the pole with the skirt in years and years and years. So I was also especially anxious and apprehensive about going on the pole and doing that stuff, you know, going upside down in the 2 corsets and the skirt. Because the female manager that was in the DJ booth at that time, she had put the smoke on last week on Wednesday, and she's the only manager. She was the first manager and pretty much the only manager that I tried to talk to about the situation with the 2 DJs that were kind of abusing the situation with me having an allergy to that smoke stuff. So, you know, she didn't really have as much of an input or helpful advice when I did try to talk to her about it years and years ago. So after that, I never really bothered to try to go to any of the other managers or back to her to say anything. There is one other manager that's like been my favorite manager for a while. He unfortunately is going to be leaving the club pretty soon, but like with him, I don't really I've never talked to him about that situation because I only started working with him after that situation with the 2 DJs was mostly like over with because they had already left the club. For the most part, although he technically had still been at the club. Technically, that actually was still an issue while I was first starting to work with him years ago, but anyways, those are just other details that are like really difficult for me to try to word out as well right now. But I mean, with that favorite manager, I was working a lot of his like slower, like kind of otherwise boring day shifts pretty recently, like last year and the year before. So I think because I was doing so many of his shifts and covering the stage for so much of that time, usually if I go to him, I try not to go to him with anything, but usually if the few times that I would maybe try to mention something or ask him something, he'd be pretty good about it, you know, for the most part. So I've never really like mentioned my actual like allergy to this. Well, I think I kind of actually have. I mentioned being allergic to the smoke to him, but I never really mentioned the issue with the DJs, like to the extent of you know, but anyway, so with the female manager, she also had put the smoke on last Wednesday, so not yesterday, but the week before, when that smoke was on, when she was putting the smoke on, that week I did ask her to pause it, and she did at first, but then she put it back on while I was still on stage. So for me to go on the pole and go upside down, like with the 2 corsets while she was in the DJ booth last night, I was feeling pretty anxious about it. And then, but I did it, okay? So, yeah, and I really didn't think that I was gonna be going on the pole at first before that because it was just so cold. It was just too cold for me to roll my socks down or take my skirt off. So I did leave the skirt on that first time that I went upside down in the pole in the 2 corsets and the 3 hats and the earmuffs. I did roll the socks down. I have to roll my socks down. I've only climbed the pole 1 time with the socks rolled up, and that was on accident. I didn't even realize I was doing it at the time until I was like halfway up, and then I was like, oh crap. But I would never try to do that again for any amount of money in the world or just anything. Like, I don't know how I did it that first time, or not first time, the only time. I don't know. I don't know how I did it that only time, but I'll never try to do that again. Didn't even mean to try to do it in the first place. But anyway, so this is such a weird parking spot right now. I'm not actually even in a parking spot. Like, this isn't a parking spot. This is where I'm parked, but it's not a parking spot. I guess it's kind of like a makeshift parking spot for me right now, but it's not originally intended to be. So these are very messy. Sorry, you guys. Oh gosh, I actually have the exact time written down that I did that, apparently. So it was actually after 9. It was 9:47 p.m. That was the time on my phone. When I got off the stage after that, that was the time on my phone when I checked it. Because I remember, I guess I did check it and write it down. It's like, oh my God. Oh yeah. There was a third DJ that had his own separate smoke machine not that long ago. He does not work at the club any longer now. He's no longer there, but he was at the club for a while, not that long ago, more recently than the other 2. And I didn't work with him as much, but I did work with him a few times. I actually did work with him like some of the busier weekend nights, like Friday and Saturday, mostly Saturday nights, like for the big busy prime times. There was a time doing that where he also had put the smoke on while I was upside down in the pole. Oh, because when the female manager put the smoke on when I was on stage last week, I don't think I was on the pole that time, but that same shift or sometime last week, somebody, I don't know if it was the female manager that time or if it was the female DJ, but somebody did put the smoke on when I was upside down on the pole last week. And in the past, when that had happened years ago with the other third guy DJ, when he had put the smoke on when I was upside down in the pole, he was very aware of my issue with the smoke too. And I'm pretty sure that time my wig actually fell off while I was upside down in the pole. So I'm completely bald now, which sometimes I kind of suspect that maybe my hair loss issue might be related to that smoke stuff with my allergy with that. Like, my allergy to that smoke has a lot of different symptoms, it seems like. So sometimes I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have eyebrows or eyelashes either. I'm almost completely hairless. I don't have hair on my legs. I don't have hair in my arms. I have a little bit of hair other places, but there's not much body hair like anywhere on me anymore. So there wasn't a whole lot to begin with, really. But yeah, I mean, when my wig fell off that time, when I was upside down in the pole those years ago, at that point I was not completely bald yet. I was in the process of it, so I had like weird patches going on, which, I mean, honestly, at that point I feel like it was pretty much worse than being bald, because being bald, at least it's just like a clean slate, like it all just is like an even surface. But back then it was like these weird patches. So, and I think that looked worse, honestly. Yeah, like, so when my wig fell off that time, that was not good. But I didn't fall off the pole, at least, so that was like my main concern. Like, that was the main thing for me. But it was still very traumatizing. So yeah, just I have a lot of trauma built up from all of that smoke stuff. So, but this time, like last week when the female manager was putting the smoke on, I asked her, and I also asked the female DJ last week to pause the smoke while I was on stage. Whereas last night when it was on, I didn't say a damn thing the entire night. I was like, I'm not going to give them that satisfaction. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to override my allergy. I don't care what it takes. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care if I have nosebleeds, headaches. My hair is already gone, so the hair loss isn't an issue anymore. You know, whatever little hair I have left, like for body hair, if that hair goes too, I'd actually be glad for that hair to go, because like it sucks to be bald and still have to shave my armpits, like, and a little bit of other areas. But it's nice not to have to shave my legs anymore. I definitely like that. So, but anyways, yeah, whatever other weird symptoms I would have from that smoke, I just don't care anymore. If I have to be a mouth breather from the congestion from it, so be it. I'm not going to give them that satisfaction. I'm not going to say a damn thing, you know. So that's what I did last night. The entire night, I still stayed until close. Oh, because yeah, at first, the first time that I went upside down on the pole in my 2 corsets and my skirt, that the smoke wasn't on yet. But I remember, because what I did, oh, here comes another plane. Oh my gosh. This one looks like the one before. Oh, mostly white, but I think this one has a blue tip. A blue tail. A blue... Anyway. So, after the smoke wasn't on that first time that I went upside down in the pole last night, with my 2 corsets and my skirt and my 3 hats and my earmuffs, amongst other things. My 2 hoodies, etc., etc. My 4 pairs of socks, but rolled down. But I remember, so what I did, I went upstairs into the bathroom to work. I was like, I have to go write this down in my notes. And most of the rest of the areas of the club were like just too crowded and too busy. Sometimes I would try to go into the VIP lounge to work on my notes like that, but it was too cold in there. Other times I'll go in the kitchen, but it was too cold in there. And then a lot of times there's like a guy back there that he's really nice, like, but he does try to talk to me a lot, which I think is nice too. But like, I'm usually trying to like focus, like just really focus on my YouTube, on my notes. And like, I'm either usually trying to watch back my previous video when I'm back there, or I'm trying to work on notes for my next video. So I don't feel comfortable trying to watch back my videos if anybody else is around me. Like, I don't want them to hear me watch. I don't want them to see or hear or realize that I'm just sitting there watching myself. You know what I mean? Like, it's, anyway. Like, I don't want them to hear the video that I'm watching and realize that the voice in the video is me. And I'm just, yeah, sitting there watching and listening to myself. Like, that's just weird. That's just awkward. So I didn't want to take my notes in the kitchen. So I went upstairs into the bathroom, and I was up there for a while. I was sitting on the sink at first. At first I was just sitting on the sink, and I've done this before. There was a box of tampons in there. So that's one of the nice things about working at the club. Like, for a while now, somebody's been like, there's like a house mom locker that the dancers started where we all just like put stuff, like, in there to like share, or like old clothes that we don't want anymore, or just like hairbrushes, makeup, just stuff like that we'll put in there that we don't want or need ourselves, or like to share. So somebody, not me, but somebody has been putting tampons in there for a while, which I love. So I took the box of tampons that was in the locker and I put it in the bathroom because I've been on my period this week, like the past couple days. So I was sitting on the bathroom sink, on the counter, on the sink counter, not the sink itself, but well, basically at one point later on I was actually like fully lying down on the sink, on the counter. Anyways, at this point I was still sitting on the counter with the tampon box, taking my notes, and I just remember part of what I had taken in these very notes right here. It was about the smoke machine, and as I was writing about that, I just knew that when I went back out into the main area of the club again, I just knew that the smoke was going to be back on. I just had that feeling, I just knew it. And sure enough, so I was in that bathroom still working on my notes up until my next time on stage. So it's like I went from the stage into the bathroom to work on my notes, and I was up there working on them all the way until my next turn on stage, until I heard my name called again. So that time when I heard my name called and I left the bathroom after working on my notes all that time, I went out to the rest of the main area of the club. Sure enough, the smoke was on. I was right. But it's my own fault because I create my own reality, and me thinking about it made it happen. So I shouldn't have thought about it because it's just all my fault, isn't it? Anyways, who cares? I'm over it at this point, well over it. It's so annoying, so obnoxious. Anyways, but not only that, so I get downstairs, go on stage, and who's there but this DJ guy? This is the same DJ guy that was at the club all 3 nights in a row last week. So when I was saying earlier how the smoke was being used last week, and up until last week, I hadn't seen it being used on my shifts for a long time, which was awesome. But it just so happens the only shift that I didn't see the smoke being used last week was Sunday. And that's also the only shift that I didn't see that DJ guy there as a customer. He comes in now as a customer. He hasn't worked at the club as a DJ for many years, but he still comes in from time to time as a customer. So same with the other DJ out of the 2 that I talk about a lot. But the other one, not as often, it seems. I don't know. Or I don't see him as often. I don't know. I also hadn't worked with him as long, the other one. Although I did also work with him for a while, like many years. But anyway, so yeah, last week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, all 3 nights in a row, the smoke was on when normally it wouldn't be those nights. And also all of those 3 nights in a row, I saw that DJ guy there. So when I did go on the pole upside down in my one corset, after not doing that for a while, for the first time, I did that on Tuesday. A big part of the reason I did that on Tuesday this week, so before that shift last night, was because there was somebody by the bar that looked like that DJ guy. So, and I was saying that in my video yesterday too. I was like, oh, like it was like a kind of catalyst, antagonist sort of situation maybe. I was just seeing this guy that looked like that DJ just like got me feeling like I needed to prove something to myself, you know? So that was why I went on the pole in my corset on Tuesday, the one corset, the one time. But so when I saw the actual DJ, the guy that looked like him on Tuesday wasn't actually him. Whereas yesterday it was actually him. So he was at the club again. And normally when he's there, when I see him, I will really try to make a point to not go on the pole and not really do anything on stage because I get really, really anxious and really, really nervous. This time I was like, no, I'm gonna go on the pole in my corset again. So I did that. That time though, actually no, I think that time I had my skirt on too, didn't I? That time I still had my skirt on. Okay, so I think, I'll have to check my notes again in a minute. Okay, I'm pretty sure I went upside down in the pole in my 2 corsets 3 times last night. I think the first time I know I just said the first time I was still wearing the skirt. I think I might have actually taken my skirt off the first time. But the second time, after I first noticed the DJ guy there, the first time I went upside down in the pole in my corsets that time, so the second time for the shift, but the first time doing it after seeing the DJ guy there, that time I was still wearing the skirt. So out of the 3 times I went upside down the pole in my 2 corsets last night, I know that at least one of the times I was wearing the skirt. So, and I know that one of those times was when I had just noticed that DJ guy there, which would have been my second time going on the pole upside down with corsets. So, but that time he wasn't near the stage or anything. He was further out, like more towards the perimeter of the rest of the building, like kind of off in the corner. And he was talking to another dancer, and he was not looking anywhere near the stage. He was like, it looked like him and this dancer he was talking to, they were apparently in this very like intense, deep conversation. Like they were like really, really talking. Like it looked like they were talking about like how to solve like world hunger, or like some kind of top secret government experiment, or it looked like they were having a very in-depth, interesting conversation. So, I don't think he noticed me or looked over towards the stage even one time, as far as I could tell. But I did make a point when I did go upside down on the pole with those 2 corsets and the skirt that time. I was facing his direction. I was facing him. I was facing them. I was facing him. When I lifted my legs out into the air to the sides to make that V shape for the inversion to go upside down in the pole, I was facing him. And I was very happy with that. So let me just take another quick peek here. You know what? So I'm gonna very gently cross these out a little bit, not too much, because never too much. And well, never too heavily cross these out these days, because I've learned the hard way that I will, anyway, I've learned the hard way not to do that. That's one thing I can seem to manage to learn a lesson from, or what? Oh man, oh God. I really hope that I don't have to break this up into 2 videos. I hate having to do that. Really, sometimes it's more like 3 or 4 for like what should have been 1 video, but anyway, oh, yeah, part of the reason that I didn't bother to ask them to pause the smoke when I was on stage last night, it was mainly because I just didn't want to give them that satisfaction, and I know that I need to finally just fully get over this issue that I've been having with this stuff. But also, I already had a headache. So one of the symptoms that I get from my allergy to the smoke stuff is headaches. But last night I already had a headache from, I think probably mostly from my period. And so yeah, like obviously going upside down on the pole when you have a headache, it can quite likely make a headache worse. It really didn't though, for the most part, thank gosh. It wasn't the kind of headache where I had to worry as much about that kind of thing, although I was worried about it, you know. But I drank an entire liter of seltzer water shortly after that, which I think helped, because I think part of the headache too was just that I might have not had enough to drink. I mean, like having your period is also very dehydrating, I'm pretty sure. So anyways, Yeah, when I went on stage that second time after, like, even before I noticed the DJ guy there, I don't think originally I wasn't planning on going upside down again with my 2 corsets on like I had earlier. When I did it the first time, I was like, okay, that's enough. But I was still planning on climbing the pole because I had rolled my socks back down, and before I went on stage, or like I knew that I was gonna do that. I was like, I'm still gonna climb the pole. But then when I saw him there, I was like, no, I'm also gonna go upside down. Like I just have to. Um, so I was very happy that I managed to do that without falling off and dying, especially. Um, okay. All right. Um, oh my gosh. Another white one with a blue tail. I wonder what airline that is. I'm pretty sure I did my first live stream from the same area near the airport. I know I did actually. I was on the other side of the parking lot, but it was the same general area, and you could hear the planes going, like, taking off in the background. Also, yeah, when I got off the pole that time, that second time with the DJ guy there, after I did that, when I walked off the stage, the direction I was walking towards, it was towards this floor host that had recently made a very kind of uncomfortable comment towards me. I think the night before, or on Monday night, so very recently, a couple nights before, when we had been having a blizzard on Monday night. The club was very slow, and he initiated this conversation with me where he made a comment. He said something where he used the word grooming. He was talking about a manager trying to groom one of the male floor hosts to be a manager. But usually when I hear the word grooming, I think about it I have like a negative connotation. I've usually heard it as far as like, especially as far as like the adult industry or like sexual things, like in a negative way, is kind of how I've interpreted it since I first learned about it not that long ago, or come across that term not that long ago, other than like, the preferred meaning, which is just, the fun kind of grooming, like doing your nails and brushing my fake hair and stuff. So doing my nails, which I never do, but I should. Hopefully come summer I'll get around to it, or spring at least. So yeah, that guy, of course, ever since he made that comment, I'm gonna be freaked out by him. So he also said that he works at the club almost every night, which is great. So when I got off the stage, he was right there, like, just also, he was just at the end of the room, just like staring at the stage. And I was walking right towards him. I walked right on by him, just kind of not trying to look directly at him, but not trying to not look at him, just like trying to look normal and like, hi. I don't know. Yeah, then I walked around up towards I went up the staircase. That's the only staircase that I haven't fallen down yet, and hopefully it'll stay that way, or like ever. That staircase, that's the only staircase that I haven't fallen down in the club. I walked up that one. Walking up that staircase, I was walking directly towards the smoke machine because it's in that general direction. Walked around the perimeter of upstairs, went directly back into the bathroom that I had been in before, right back to work on my notes again, and right back to add those fun little quirky details into my notes. Of course, after doing that, immediately I was like, okay, I have to go right back to my notes and write all this down. And that's what I did. So, yep. Oh my gosh, I think that's the entire side of this paper. Oh, I can put that paper over here now. Yes, that feels good. Of course, I don't want to get too excited because I might have to do this stream again. I might have to redo this. I hate that. I hate that. I love that for me. No, I hate it for me. I do. I do. I do. I do. Oh. Okay, so when I went back into the bathroom after that, beforehand working in my notes, I was pretty much just like sitting on the counter, but that time I was in there yet again. I stayed in that bathroom until my next time called on stage. And that night, there were quite a few other dancers on rotation. So it's not like I was being called back on stage that shortly afterwards. I was in the bathroom for probably a couple of hours, you know, until it was my next turn to go on, my next time or my next turn to go on stage again. So that time, I ended up lying across the entire bathroom counter. There's 2 sinks on that counter, so I put my backpack against the wall. I'm lying out across the 2 sinks and the countertop as best I can. And I was just watching stuff on YouTube, and I was kind of a little bit working in my notes, like when stuff came to my, like, popped into my head, that I wanted to write down, but I was also like on YouTube. I was watching this guy that I watch that does lives and talks about like dieting stuff a lot, and he's so hot, he's so sexy. Oh my god. So I was watching him, and being on the counter like that, with me trying to diet pretty often myself, I sometimes get frustrated for not being taller than I am, because I've heard that taller people it's easier for them a lot of times to get away with being able to eat a little bit more, because being taller, like, they need more to sustain themselves, whereas shorter people tend to need a bit less because their bodies are smaller. So sometimes, because, you know, I do have a bit of an appetite, and love to stuff my face. Sometimes I do wish that I was maybe a bit taller, so it'd be a little bit easier for me to get away with just eating more. Trying to squeeze onto the counter like that, in that moment, you know, I felt a little more okay with being on the shorter side. It was not comfortable. 3:30 on the dot. How could it be, really? But it wasn't too bad, you know. I mean, I just barely fit, but I fit okay. And I wasn't too terribly uncomfortable, you know, like, I could make it work. And, you know, a time or two, a dancer came in, and it was no big deal, you know, like, they just did their thing, and I stayed right there on the counter. So, oh, okay, but then after that, when I got called back down onto stage after that time when I went back downstairs, that DJ guy was no longer at the perimeter of the room. He was directly in front of the stage. So he was sitting at a table, dead center, dead ahead, right next to the stage, right in front of it. Not at the stage itself, but like just feet away, very, very close to the stage. And he was sitting at this table with this chick. And this chick wasn't a dancer this time. It wasn't the same person he had been talking to before. This looked like a non-dancer. She was dressed in regular clothing. It didn't look like she worked there. It might have been just a girlfriend or a friend. I hadn't noticed her or seen her at the club before, but he was sitting with this female, you know, just dressed in normal people clothing. And that time I was like, all right, am I gonna do that again? like go upside down on the pole with my two corsets again. And I did do that. That time I took my skirt off though, and I really wish that I had kept my skirt on for that, because obviously that would have made it even better, you know. But I just, you know, I was feeling a bit, yes, apprehensive, of course. So I did take the skirt off that time, but I still had the two corsets on. I still had the 3 hats and the earmuffs, none of which fell off. Well, obviously the corsets wouldn't fall off, but how could those? But like none of this stuff on my head fell off, you know what I mean? Like including the wigs, so that's good. Guys, imagine if like all of this, like just the wigs included, like imagine if just the entire piece, like we'll just combine, because I'm wearing 2 wigs, okay? So 2 wigs, 3 hats, and the earmuffs. They basically meld together to form one piece after a certain amount of time of me wearing all this on my head, it feels like. So what if I just went upside down in the pole and the entire chunk, it just all came off as one big chunk and just fell down to onto the floor? With just this like thud, this nice satisfying thud sound. Oh gosh, can you imagine? I don't really want to imagine that or think about it, but it's also a little bit funny to think about still, because I think the funniest part would just be the sound it would make, like the thud. Or would it? Probably depending on how loud the how loud the music is. But anyways, oh man. Oh my gosh. Yeah, usually that smoke stuff makes the pole especially slippery, but I will admit, for part of the reason, okay, so part of the reason I felt able to do that, the pole wasn't as slippery this time, which was really weird because the pole is pretty much always slippery, like especially so, like extremely so. But obviously sometimes more than others, but pretty much every single time that smoke stuff is on, I will find the pole to be especially slippery. Whereas last night, for whatever reason, it just wasn't. And I couldn't understand why, I couldn't figure it out, but I was gonna go with it, you know what I mean? I was like, all right, we'll go with this, you know, like might as well put it to use, might as well try to make the most of that as well. So yeah, that definitely seemed to work in my favor. At least that part seemed to work in my favor pretty well. So when I came down the pole after going upside down that time with the DJ guy right there in front, I touched down onto the stage floor with my hands, and I put my legs out to the side, kind of like doing a handstand against the pole. And yeah, like a handstand, I would call it, basically. And then, but when I came down from that, so obviously I couldn't really see them anymore when I was doing the handstand because my head was facing inward towards the pole rather than facing them at that time. When I did the upside down inversion to go upside down in the pole, I was facing them. And actually, thinking back now, I'm a little worried that, like, what if my tampon string was showing? Because when I checked in the bathroom later, I was like, oh crap, it looked like maybe my tampon string had been showing. Because when I went upside down in the pole that time, well, both times actually, both times that he was there, that I went upside down in the pole with my 2 corsets, I was facing him when I went upside down, and my legs were as well. So when I lifted my legs out in the air, my lower anatomy parts were facing him as well. But yeah, to come back down into the handstand, doing that, my face and my head wasn't facing him anymore at that time. I was facing the pole at that point. But I mean, at least with the tampon string, the corset that I was wearing last night, I mean, I was wearing 2. So one of them was the red one. The red one is the one on top. Where did it go? The red one's the one on top, but the one underneath was white. And so the white one underneath, I mean, the base portion, like the white one and not the red one, but all the actual corsets underneath, have very long strings in the back. So with the white corset, it has these long white strings. So I was like, all right, well, tampon strings are white, the white corset strings are white. So I was like, maybe it just like matched up and like looked like they were like part of the same outfit. Well, they were. Um that was just a little accessory, you know what I mean? Like that was, I was sporting that night. But yeah, it's like, well, there's a white string here, there's a white string there, there's a white string there, there's a white string there. Lots of white strings going on. Oh, okay, but so when I got back down off the pole that time, yeah, I mean, doing the handstand, I was not able to see them anymore. But then when I got out of the handstand and looked back up, they weren't there anymore. And I was like, rats! I was like, where did they go? I was like, I wanted to look right at him and be like, ha! But he wasn't there anymore. So now I'm like, all right, with the smoke stuff, with that smoke machine, a lot of it is to, like, the reason they say they use it is to try to enhance all the laser beam lights that they have flashing all around, which it does do. It does look pretty cool with that stuff. But now I'm kind of thinking, like, you know, like the smoke in the mirrors, like the illusion and all of that, the illusions going on, like in strip club land. What if that DJ guy was a hologram? What if him and that chick, like, what if it was like part of like the special, like additional special effects from the smoke machine and the lights and all of that stuff? Like, you got the smoke machine, you got the lights, the combination that's doing all this weird visual effects. There's the laser beam lights are all these different shapes and patterns, right? Like all of this different weird visual stuff going on. It's not completely outside the realm of possibility, is it? I mean, with all the craziness of this day and age, like technology and, or maybe I just made it up in my mind. Maybe my brain just did it to push myself. Excuse me. What if it was just all part of the illusion, you know? Either way, whatever about that. I mean, that's just like, you know, a fun little thing to wonder about. But the important part for me is that I went back down upside down on the pole in my 2 corsets and I didn't fall off. Okay, so that's the important part that I'm focusing on. Yeah, it's not even that I didn't it's not even just that I didn't see them there at the table anymore. I didn't see them anywhere in the club at all. Like, I looked around the rest of the club, like casually, like glanced around the other areas in the club, and I didn't see them anywhere else either. So it's like they just disappeared, apparently, or just left. Or maybe they were never even there at all to begin with. Okay, who knows? Who knows? Not me. I sure don't know. As usual. Yeah. Before going on the pole that time with them there, like right near the stage, at that point, I had originally thought, this was getting towards the end of the night at that point, so I had originally thought that I was finished working on my notes for this video at that time before I went back downstairs and saw them right near the stage. But after that time, I was like, all right, gotta go right back and work on my notes again. So that's what I did. And that's what these are. Oh gosh. But yeah, with so much of, you know, those 3 times that I went on the pole wearing my 2 corsets last night, they pretty much all had to do with that DJ guy and also that female manager that had played into this whole situation that I've had with that smoke machine and that issue that I've had with that stuff. So I was saying in my video yesterday how antagonists, it's kind of like I would see them as antagonists almost in a way, or maybe just catalysts. But whatever you'd want to call it, how sometimes like those kind of characters or people, I guess in like a movie or a book it would be a character, but in somebody's actual life it would be just like people. But either way, it's like, yeah, they can really seem to motivate and inspire. And I guess the trick is just to try to have it be in a positive way. Like if somebody sees other people as being like enemies, like it could maybe motivate them to do bad things. But I try not to see other people that give me that I've had that have maybe seemed like they're not on my side or whatever, or that they don't like me. I try not to let that mean that I don't like them, or I try not to let that, even if they saw me as being their enemy, I wouldn't want to see them as, I wouldn't want to allow myself to see them as being my enemy, because I don't want to have enemies. I don't want to be against people. I don't want to have bad feelings or animosity towards anybody if I can help it. So yeah, I would just try to consider it maybe an antagonist or a catalyst, or I don't even know if adversary would be the word, but just something to challenge, but also to inspire and to motivate, but rather than motivate in a negative way, the way that like an actual enemy maybe would, like to just try to have that, to turn it into where it's positive motivation, you know, like a positive thing. So yeah, that, I was already saying that in my video yesterday, but my shift last night, the video yesterday that I did before that shift, but then after doing that shift, after doing that video, it really kind of like cemented that idea in a little more, like really kind of reiterated those thoughts and feelings that I'd already been having about that kind of thing, which I thought was, you know, interesting to me. All right, I started this video shortly before, no, I think it was right around 2 o'clock, 2:20? 2:20, I think I started at 2:20. Right now it's 3:45. That's almost an hour and a half. 90 minutes, all right, oh gosh. Yeah, 85 minutes it says. So I'm so torn because, oh gosh, I feel like, all right, I don't want to, there's other notes and it's like, well, maybe I could just put them in another video to try to help this one to post okay, because the longer these get, it seems less likely that they post all the way, or I don't know, well, okay, so the last thing that I have written on this paper, I'm like, how can one page of notes turn into so much talking time? Because I've been trying to write a book for a while, and like before, like for many, many, many years, probably almost 2 decades at this point. And part of the reason I started my YouTube was because trying to write stuff out on paper like this, or like with typing, whatever it might be, it just seems to be so time and energy consuming and just takes so long. Whereas saying stuff out loud seems to be quicker. Like it's just a quicker, easier way to get a point across, just speaking it out loud rather than trying to write it all down. So with me doing my YouTube, a lot of what I talk about is stuff that I was trying to write about for my book. And it's like, you know what? I had been doing that for so many years. It was so draining. And I was like, you know what? I just want to talk instead for a little while. Like just say stuff out loud, faster, easier. But now with me doing my videos, it's like most of them are just so long, it feels like, or they are. And it's like, well, how is that possible? Because now it's almost like a vice versa thing where I'll have like today I have multiple pages, but recently, and a lot of times it'll even just be like one piece of paper or even just one side of that paper, like yesterday and the day before. And it's like, so how can one piece of paper and my handwriting isn't that small either. So it's like, how can one page of notes turn into so much talking time? Because I thought it was supposed to be the other way around with the writing. Like, I thought saying stuff out loud was supposed to be faster. I thought it was supposed to take less time than stuff written down. But now it's like, I'll just have a little bit written down, it's supposed to be, and then it turns into so much more when I'm talking, and it's just really kind of confusing for me. I guess that's the best way I can try to word that out right now. I'm so tired. I'm just, my brain hurts, okay? It really does. Like, my body, my brain, it's all just like kind of big ouchie wow right now. And most of the time, yes. More often than not, yes. That's pretty much how it goes. Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier how sometimes when it's not especially cold in the kitchen at the club, sometimes I will try to work on my notes and my YouTube stuff back there. You know, it's normal lighting back there. It's not as dark. It's just like easier to see and like work on that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's also sometimes a busier area where people will be, and there's this guy, this floor host that's back there a lot, and will, like I was saying earlier, he'll try to talk to me a lot, like just ask me like questions, and it seems like he's trying to get to know me, or I don't really know what his intentions are, and I kind of I just like don't want to. I'm like, well, I'm not used to that kind of thing with people. Like, well, actually I kind of am. I'm not used to that from guys. I'm used to that from other dancers. Other dancers ask me a lot of questions about myself. Not all the time, but a lot of times dancers that I don't know and have never, both of dancers that I don't know, dancers that I kind of do, a lot of dancers will ask me stuff. Just kind of like randomly, it seems like just ask me stuff about myself, which I guess is kind of flattering, I want to think, or I'm not really too sure how to take that either. But I'm not used to guys really initiating conversation with me. Like, even if I were to try to talk to guys at the club as like the customers there, which I usually don't do that much, I'm usually just trying to go on stage. But if I am trying to talk to a guy and like initiate conversation, it's usually me asking them questions. And like me doing most of the initiation. Whereas this guy in the kitchen, like he will ask me stuff about myself, and I'm just not used to that from guys. So I'm like, all right, I don't really understand it, but whatever. But he asked me last night, he saw me working on my notes back in the kitchen last night. And he was like, what, are you trying to write a book? And I just kind of laughed at first. I was like, oh yeah, not right now or whatever. And he was like, if you were to write a book about something, what would it be about? And I was so tired at that point too. So I was just like, I just didn't have the energy, like, at that time. Like, I tried to be nice, you know, like, of course, but I just had to lie at that moment. I was just like, I would never try to write a book. Because I do. I hate working on my book, or like my book. I hate doing it. I can't stop myself because it feels like what I'm supposed to do, but I hate doing it. It's really weird. But then so I was like, oh, I would never try to write a book. And then I kind of paused and I was like, or I guess maybe a children's book, because I'm assuming that trying to write a kid's book, like a children's book, would probably be the easier route to go with that kind of thing. And he was just like, okay, whatever. I think he could kind of tell that I wasn't really like feeling up to talking at that time. But I was just thinking, like, you know, I just went with children's book because I didn't really know how to say, like, well, yeah, I have been trying to write a book, but I didn't want to give the honest answer of, oh, actually, I guess it would be about how stressful and confusing and, how did I put this? Let me just read right off the paper right now because I'm exhausted. I guess I just didn't have the heart or have it in me to try to say how, oh, it would be about how stressful and excruciating and confusing and exasperating and obnoxious my existence has been, and how desperately I could use some assistance slash guidance slash direction from some of whatever rare, well-intentioned souls might be out there. When I wrote that down, I didn't want to be reading it off the paper word for word like that. I wanted to be able to speak it out loud and make it sound kind of like whimsical and funny. Like I said, I'm just too tired right now, and I'm getting that kind of sinking feeling of dread of just feeling like, usually lately towards the end of my videos, the latter, they just don't seem to post. I know my video yesterday did, but that's almost like an even worse, not worse, but it's like, okay, if one video works, I feel like the chances of the next one working are less, because if one did, then how could the next one work also? Like, it just feels like more often than not, most of my videos don't seem to post properly lately. It's getting to that point where it's like, it feels like a rare treat when a video actually posts okay. And that's not a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling, of course, it's a great feeling when it posts okay, but it's not a nice feeling that most of them don't. And that I have to be even more nervous and more anxious about the next one. So, like, I'm just so tired right now. And I really, really, really had to push myself to come out today. Like I was saying at the start of this video, normally I don't go out on Thursdays, but like, you know, if this video were to not post properly, it would just be like, all right, well, I guess I really shouldn't have bothered to come out today. I really should have just, you know, taken the day off to relax and just, you know, bleed and be in bed bleeding. Oh my gosh. Oh, goodness. Yeah. And all of this stuff on my head is really hurting right now. Like my glasses. Oh, it presses my glasses. It presses the glasses frame into my head so much. Like, oh man. Oh gosh, where's my other pen? Oh my goodness. So I got, out of the 4 sides of the papers, there's only one left. And I really, really, really want to try to do it now, but I'm thinking maybe I should just save it for next time, because if this video doesn't post properly, I just don't want to be as upset. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want to have as much time wasted. It's a terrible feeling. But you know what? I was able to come out today. Like I might have to already, like once I end the stream, I'm gonna have to, if it doesn't post, I'm gonna have to decide, do I want to try to redo all of that right now today? It's almost 4 o'clock, so, and no, I don't want to. But it's not if I want to, am I going to do that, basically? Obviously, I don't want to. I desperately, desperately, desperately don't want to. Am I gonna, like, would I be doing that or not, though? Like, would I bother or would I not bother? Just, so, but, okay. Oh, man. I can't. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. All right, so, sorry. Oh, there's another plane. That one's all white. That doesn't look like a regular commercial airliner, but it doesn't look like a little passenger plane either. What is that? It looks like a tampon. No. Without the tail. Without. Oh man. What was I just about to say? Since I'm out right now, if I am able to go to the gym and the Dollar Tree, which is also the other main reason I came out besides doing the video. You know what? No, I'm wearing my sneakers right now. I'm gonna have to take my corsets off and my belt off, but I'll probably, and like some of this probably, but my headgear, but maybe, I think I really hope I am gonna, the gym is right there. The Dollar Tree and the gym are right next to each other pretty much. So, I would love to be able to come on again soon and be like, guess what? I did go to the gym on Thursday. So yeah. But since I'm out now, if I can go do that stuff and like within a relatively decent time span and get back to my place later, get a little bit of sleep, maybe actually be able to sleep for some of the nighttime. Sometimes I will try to do a Friday day shift at the club because that's when my favorite manager works, and he's going to be leaving the club soon, so I want to try to, you know, enjoy him while I can. While I still can. And then also though, because I am telling myself to just get over the smoke situation finally for once and for all, a lot of the reason I haven't been doing shifts at the club for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for a while now, like for the night shifts, is because of that smoke stuff. Usually it had seemed to mostly be used for the busier times those nights, but now it's being used, just as of very recently, it's being used on the slower nights as well, it seems, a lot of times. So, well, within the past couple weeks, it's just been a thing again. So, well, now it's like, all right, whatever. I just have to pretend it's not, I just have to get over it. Like, you know what I mean? So, with that in mind, it's like, well, if that looks like a passenger plane. Maybe I could be a pilot. Don't pilots wear stuff on their head like this? Oh my gosh. Don't pilots wear earmuffs, you guys? I think they do, like a version, like an aviation version of earmuffs. Um, they do, don't they? So if I oh, because I remember last week I did get up pretty early on Friday. That's what happened last week. I went out Thursday. I was able to get a little bit of sleep that night, and then I got up pretty early Friday morning, and I was thinking about going into the club last Friday, but I fell back asleep. Um, but maybe I can just try to redo that this time and tomorrow, but without the falling back asleep part. Maybe I can just go in and then, Friday day shifts. We pay to work there at the club that I work at, so day shifts especially, it's really difficult for me to try to even just make back what I pay to work there. So, but since I'm telling myself not to worry about the smoke stuff as much, like maybe I could, if I had to make back at least what I was able to, to at least be able to make back what I paid to work there, maybe I could just even stay a little bit into the night shift if I ended up having to do that. You know what I mean? Just at least not to have to leave in the negative, basically. You know. Nobody wants that, or I know I sure don't. But yeah, so maybe, and with that, especially like if maybe I could come do a video tomorrow too at some point throughout that, like take a little break in between to do a video on here, a quicker version of a video for me. But even if that doesn't happen, I'll still probably try to come back on Sunday if I can. I think we're supposed to get a little bit of snow on Sunday. What ends up happening a lot of times, it'll say a little bit at first, and then as it comes closer, it'll like say that we're supposed to get so much more, but it can go so many different ways, like so many different things. So yeah, if the snow is not too bad on Sunday, then hopefully I'll still be able to try to come on for that. And I do have this fourth paper. I do have this side of this paper here to talk about, to work with for that next video. So yeah, maybe tomorrow, maybe Sunday, but gonna try to get to it sooner than later, as I like to say, and hope you guys are well. I hate when my hats do this. I didn't put my eyebrows on today. I'll just try one more time to maybe get a screenshot for a thumbnail. Hold on. All right, well, thanks to you guys for watching, and till next time, hopefully soon. Peace out for now.